This is teaching a worship band a song, a balance between charts and demos. I mentioned this in the first session today. Working with a band is totally different than communicating with a choir or an orchestra. Um, not every not every band member may necessarily be a note reader as far as notes on the page. They have all probably learned their instrument through different avenues. We're even learning this in our School of Music here at the church right now. We've got, some kids who come, or students who come and they can play really well, but they couldn't tell you, you know, what they are playing. If you put the music in front of them, they wouldn't recognize it. They've learned, on YouTube or through different avenues. So, and the same is true for guitarists and drummers. Some just pick it up. Others, or have learned through more traditional, lesson setups as well. So we're all kind of in different spots on that. So all of these different people from different backgrounds come to your church and they want to be a part of your worship band. And how do we pull all those different backgrounds together? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to pray for us and then we'll jump right in. And thanks again for being here. Lord, we're grateful for this day. I do pray that you'll bless our time together. We're so thankful to be able to serve you in the local church. And we just want to pause today for you to hear the gratitude from our hearts, God. What a privilege. And so thanks for these folks gathered in our session today. I do pray it would be a fruitful time. We'd all leave here feeling like we have grown and made some new connections in the meantime. And so thanks for the chance we have to serve you by working with musicians from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, and God, give us the tools and the wisdom to do that well. We pray these things in your name. Amen. All right. Following your handout there that's attached, basically we're answering the questions today. Should a band member be able to read music? Is that a requirement, prerequisite for being in the worship band? What kinds of charts are helpful for the worship band? And then what is the best way to give them all the details without having, a million pages. And, we don't want to give our bands copies of the choir anthem to play out of, things like that. We want them to have all the details they need, but on less paper, if possible. So that's what we're gonna hit today. So first of all, the importance of planning ahead. And I'm sure a lot of this will just feel really practical, but I have just found over and over again that sometimes those are the steps that are skipped. And there's really so much value in advance notice and in giving your team time to prepare and to prepare well. So the importance of planning ahead. Your team, at the end of the day, they're going to be more comfortable. They're going to be more effective. They're going to play at a higher level. And they're just going to simply be freed up to worship more freely if they really get these songs ahead of time and have ample time to spend with them. So I always say a few days with a chart and a demo will get a song in somebody's head and in their hands even. But several days will really get the song in their hearts. And so I think that's an important piece that we can often overlook as all of us are prone to think, okay, our goal, we got to make sure this sounds good. Let's get the chart in front of them, but really letting them spend time and soak in this music so that they are not just bound to the chart, not worried about surviving it. I don't ever want to lead a worship service and think that it's successful if I finish it and say, man, I'm so glad we got through that. Like, that's not a success to me to survive it. I want myself and the team that I lead to feel like we've engaged with God in this worship service today. And so, some of the practical steps that come into play there are just being able to really prepare our students well, prepare our church members well, our musicians well. Um, so, if there's a demo of the song, make sure that your team has access to that. I know I'm talking probably a few different schools of thought today. Maybe the norm is for your bands. Maybe you're doing mainly songs like they are on the radio or like they are on the newest Passion record or Hillsong record or whatever. Or maybe you're using choral arrangements of worship songs or choral arrangements for anthems, and maybe that's the case. I'll try to speak to both of those, but no matter what, um, giving your team a demo, a demonstration recording is so important. Being able to read a chart is super helpful, but there are so many things like tone and grooves that really a chart can't fully detail for your band like a demo could. So the best combination is for them to have a chart in front of them while listening to a demo, and that will be the game changer as far as them learning. And if they're listening specifically to their instrument being played on the demo with a chart in front of them and able to make the connections they need to make and mark the things they need to mark, and really master the tone that they hear being played, especially if they're a guitar player or a keys player, it's going to make all the difference in the world. So publishers spend tons of resources and dollars on recording high quality demos. Share those with your team. Put those on Planning Center. Let your team have access to those so that they can benefit just like you do as the worship leader or worship pastor or music director there. So make sure that's all I want to talk about on that. Yeah, all of that listening will only make them better as a worship band member. So before you play a note, so we've sent our music out, we've sent out the demos ahead of time, and now we're at the rehearsal to prepare that music for the next time you meet to worship together. This section is called Before You Play a Note. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to talk through a song before you just start playing it. I record bands and these demos that choral publishers put out. I'm usually there for the recording of those tracks, and I'm never just handed out a chart to those musicians and said, okay, let's go play, without us talking through it. If there's a demonstration recording for us to listen to, or if there's another song I want it to sound similar to, we listen to that. We talk through each section. We talk about who should be involved and when they should be involved. We talk about challenging sections, things they really want to be on the lookout for. I might even play a few of those sections just to be sure everybody's in the know and on the same page. So all of those things happen before we ever put our instrument in our hands and play through it. So take the time to do that. And if you're prepared to talk them through the song, it's only going to make you more prepared for that rehearsal because you've had to spend time getting ready on your end. And so you've listened through it, you've looked at a chart, you've marked up the chart. So always do that. And again, that balance of in that rehearsal, you're listening to the demo and you've got the chart in front of you. That's the highest way to educate your band on the songs that you're going to play. So make sure everybody's calling each section of the song the same. If the chart doesn't have sections marked, if they don't have chorus, verse, bridge, if they don't have those marked on the chart, go ahead and mark those. Even if you just all do them together while you're talking through it, it's only going to help you as the rehearsal goes to be able to say, hey, let's pick up right at the bridge, or let's pick up at, chorus 3 or whatever. It's really good to be on the same page and have those sections marked. Circle places on the chart that may be challenging. Talk through those. And then this morning, if you weren't in the breakout this morning, we talked about having a music director, one of your band members who really is the band leader. Make sure they, talk through the layers of the song. When the guitar player should be coming in, what he should be doing when he comes in. And so everybody leaves that conversation knowing their roles really well. It's so important. Hang on with me through this section because I'm going to walk you through the basic options that most publishers provide for charts, some that may or may not be, but I want to give you the options of what your band has probably looked at before. Maybe you're a leader and you're not an instrumentalist, and so maybe working with a band is intimidating in some kind of way. I totally get that. So I'll give you hopefully this kind of knowledge of what's out there and what the options are for your band will help you make the best decision for your band. Everybody has their own context and has their own scenario that they're in. So I will say again, it's not ideal for you just to hand your band like a copy of the anthem, especially if they're a pianist, great, or if they're playing organ, that's fine. However, if they're playing guitar, bass guitar, drums, I mean, just to wade through the 10 page turns in a normal anthem, it's just not even possible for them to do that. So for an ideal scenario, they need to get one of these versions of charts we're going to talk about. The first one is a slash chart. It's basically a rhythm chart. It's how it would be listed if you were to buy an anthem from Lifeway or any other publisher, and by the orchestration, there's going to be a rhythm chart in there, and you'll see the slashes representing each beat. So it's written on staff paper, slashes for each beat of the song, and then you'll see some rhythmic notation in there whenever there are specific changes in the rhythmic pattern, and that's for your band's benefit. So that chart is my preference. That's what I always give my band. Even if I'm doing an arrangement here from scratch, I'll write out that kind of chart for our team because I can give them the most detailed chart by using that format. I can give them the most information. I can provide clarity of rhythms they need to play. I can notate, motifs that the lead guitar is supposed to follow or that the pianist is supposed to play. So even our pianists, read off the rhythm charts because I try to give them that much information where they could do it, even without looking at an anthem. So it depends on what the song is, obviously, but that's the goal. So the slash chart or the rhythm chart, I'm a big fan. So you might also, beyond just the choral publishers like lifeofworship.com and praisecharts.com, they both offer this kind of chart. So if you buy an orchestration or if you buy a rhythm chart, that's what that chart's going to look like for your band. So they're readily available for most songs, and definitely worth the investment. Um, for a non-music reader in your band, they might be intimidated at first glance by the rhythm chart, but I have seen musician after musician really grow in this area. It's not really reading music. If you look at a rhythm chart, I mean, besides there being a music staff there, especially if a song doesn't have any notated melodies, if it's a real simple chart, these these charts are readable, I think, by anyone. They're able to follow the slashes for the downbeats. If they can count, they can benefit from a rhythm chart. So you may have a guitar player, you may have a drummer say, hey, I can't read this, I can't make sense of it. I really believe with a little instruction and then just spending more time with them, I think the result can be totally different than that. So don't give up when somebody says that. I think that's a good time to challenge them on that. And because I've just seen it happen, I've seen people really become great chart readers who are not necessarily music readers. So um, that's my soapbox on rhythm charts. The probably the most common kind of chart for a band is just a lyric chart, and that's basically like a Word document with lyrics to the song and then chords written above that. A few things on that. So, publishers have started to create those just to give another option. And they've got kind of their own formulas where they're trying to give you as much information as they can. Again, it's impossible to give full like rhythmic notation or, um, you know, any kind of melody line notation on a chart like that. So you're really limited on the instructions that you can give your band when you use a lyric chart, but they're also the most readily available. I will say this, don't, there are free lyric charts all over the internet. You can find any song anywhere, but I'm telling you, most of them are not correct. So be really careful with that. Like you'd be better off to, you know, take a choral anthem if that's what you're using, um, and then make your own lyric chart just so you know that it's correct, as opposed to buying something online. It's just almost impossible to find one that's completely accurate and completely aligned with the arrangement that you're using, with your choir or even the structure of the way you're going to use it in worship. So avoid the free rhythm chart or the free lyric chart online at all costs. If lyric charts are your preferred method, yeah, purchase them or make them for yourself. I will say, Praise Charts has come a long way, and the charts they provide, their lyric charts have a real good formula. The template's good. I think they give the most information compared to a lot of other places. So, and their catalog is massive. So you can find just about any song you're looking for and any version of it. And they usually have a chord chart available there. So check that out. And I hope that that's helpful to you. But try a rhythm chart with everybody first before you make the solid move over to lyric charts. Lead sheets, it's kind of a combination of both. A lead sheet has the written melody line, so you're getting melody and lyrics, and then it has a lot of the same, information that a rhythm chart would, as far as when the band's in, when they're playing, when they're not, and it also will include the, motifs that the band's supposed to play and stuff like that. The problem with lead sheets, they're usually really long because they have the melody written out. It takes a lot of sheet music. Unless you're digital, like on an iPad or something, it can be a whole lot of pages for your band. So you want to be really careful with that. again, I cannot stress how, impossible that is for your band to really succeed if they're having to turn pages a whole lot. So be really careful with that. And then what else was I going to say about that? Yeah. Finally, a number chart. This may be the least common, depending on where you are. You may not see many rhythm number charts. Coming from a church in Nashville, tons of churches in that area use number charts, but a lot of the players in that area, excuse me, are very number chart based. I mean, that's what a lot of studios use, the Nashville number system. So, unless that's you just happen to have a lot of band members at your church who prefer that method, I wouldn't recommend just teaching it unless you're in a situation where you have a lot of different worship leaders and they want the songs you do to be in different keys. That's when number charts are super helpful. But if that's not the case and you're just it's always going to be the same version and same arrangement, I would avoid the number chart scenario. I will say this: if you're creating rhythm charts in Finale, you can transition those to Nashville number charts just with a click of a button. It's really easy. So when I'm doing a rhythm session in Nashville, I usually, take rhythm charts and I'll just transition those to number charts for the guys who, it's easier for them to use them because that's all they, really look at typically. So it's an easy switch. If you're a Finale person at all, or have that notation software, just know that's an easy one click of a button and you've got Nashville numbers right there. Any questions on that? Yeah, we got a question from James here already. How do you help a non-music reader launch into a slash chart, especially if it doesn't have lyrics? Great question. So again, the best practice for them, even maybe before you put them into the rotation, give them, four charts of varying styles, give them the charts and the demos. And again, if they can count, they should be able to follow a demo and follow a chart just by counting. Maybe the first time or two, or maybe for a song or two, you actually walk them through it together, and you show them. I think that would be actually really helpful if they've never seen one before. So walk through it with them, show them, and I think not having the lyrics is something they can overcome. A lot of rhythm charts actually have lyric cues, which is really helpful. So if they don't have them, maybe jot those in. So if they get lost or if they skip a measure or skip a line or something like that, as they're following along, they can at least catch a lyric here or there to know what they're, where they are and get back on tracks. It's totally worth it, and you'll see them grow for sure. Any other chart questions about those different formats? Have you found one that works better than another? Anything like that? While I drink coffee. And I'll talk a little more in a minute, James, about the non-music reader. So we'll hit a few more angles on that. Okay, everybody, we're going to keep plowing. Time's flying by. I talked a little bit about this already, but I'll say it again because it's so important. Avoiding page turns is a huge, huge deal. So you'll definitely want to try to do that at all costs. Publishers try to condense their charts, but sometimes it can still be 3 or 4 pages. The charts I make sometimes are multiple pages. So I'm a big fan of the digital option, and them using like an iPad with a foot pedal is super helpful. So explore that option. Obviously, there's a financial commitment at that point, and so, but it's so easy. I use um, personally, I just use an iPad. I've got an Apple Pencil, so I can mark my chart. We use Planning Center, so we're on the Music Stand app, and I can mark my chart, and it's marked that way forever until I change it or erase it. So, as far as keeping a catalog, a library with just your markings on it, it is super, super handy, and you're not having to keep, files of rhythm charts and things like that. All right, a couple more questions here. Janet, you're saying you use lead sheets for all singers and guitars. Yeah, and so that obviously gets your team on the same page. That is the benefit of a lead sheet is um, it especially if it has the harmonies written in, it gives them what they need, also gives the band what they need, and they can communicate by looking at the same thing. So when somebody says, "Hey, how about the top line of page 2?" Everybody is reading the same thing. Again, taking your band to a digital setup is super user friendly. You'll gain a lot of fans through that for sure. Especially, there's tons of options for like a little Bluetooth foot pedal that can turn the page for them without even them having to swipe the screen. But it doesn't take too long just to reach your hand up real quick and swipe the screen as well. So you got some options there for sure. James, should you standardize what charts you use for everyone? Different players have different preferences. And great question. It's really up to what you're willing to do. Um, I always talk to my team and the band by saying measure numbers. So, if I have some guys on rhythm charts and other guys on uh, lyric charts that don't have measure numbers on them, that can make communication kind of tough. Or you just have to be more general. You have to always start, at the top of a chorus, things like that. So, um, I definitely prefer to have everybody on the same system. For you guys who really gravitate to the lyric charts, it may be a slow transition with them, but I do think it's worth the effort just to get everybody locked in. Long term, the time it will save you and the money of having to purchase both, if that's depending on where you're buying them from. I do think it's worth trying to standardize. We're not completely standardized here at First Woodstock, like some our students, they're usually using lyric charts. But if they ever play in the service with choir and orchestra, which we include students a lot, they're getting to read and getting to grow by using rhythm charts in that service. So Janet, we're fortunate to have musicians who all read music. We're able to sing in 3 vocal parts. That is awesome. So good. And I know you're seeing the benefits of that and hearing the benefits of that too. So that's great. Um, all right. Thoughts for the non-reading band member. We've already talked a little bit about this. I will say this, don't discount what a non-music reading band member can bring to your team. Some of the greatest musicians in the world can't read a note of music, and I know that sounds crazy, but some of the best guitar players in the world, some of the best drummers in the world, they're not music readers. They're just not music people as far as reading notes on the page, but they're incredible instrumentalists. They're great at their craft. They can read chords. They know their chords, but they just can't read, a scale via notation. So be patient with those folks, but definitely don't discount what they can bring to the table. Also, don't discount the impact you can have on them as a leader. You can, again, that you're intentionality to walk through how to read these charts with them will be super helpful. And you'll see them grow right before your eyes. I've had completely non-music readers come in, and a year later they wouldn't know what to do without the benefit of having a chart in front of them. So it'll be, if they apply themselves and you're intentional in the way you lead them, I think you'll be amazed at the time, how little time it takes for them to really grow in that area. If a player never fully embraces reading the actual notes on a page, they can still grow in their ability to read chords and even read rhythmic notation that's provided to them on a rhythm chart. So I really, really encourage you to press in on that, and you'll be better off for it. That is a lot of what I got today. Any questions on that so far? Any other thoughts on walking through the chart with your worship band? I wish I could see you guys so bad, to know what you're thinking and to see if you're with me or not. But hopefully we'll be live the next time we get to do this together. Any other questions? Maybe a little off subject. This is Conan. Maybe a little off subject from the charts. How much improvisation do you encourage, allow from various players, and how do you work out who does what? Hey, that's right on the subject. No, that's such a great question, and I probably should have addressed that. So, again, everybody comes into this from different backgrounds, and everything I'm going to say, I'm going to try to keep this answer pretty general because the song, you know, could dictate how much needs to be done. So keep that in mind as I'm sharing some thoughts. And drinking some coffee. Some people have really natural improv abilities. You may have a guitar player who plays more by ear, and that's how he, grew up playing more of the improv route. Or the flip side is you may have a pianist who is very gotta have the notes on the page, needs everything written out. So let's start with the person who just has a great ear for improv. I talked about this a little bit in my first session this morning, but the concept of less is more with your band is really important. That phrase, less is more. So if they're a great improver, make sure they're using those gifts in the right spots of the song. I mean, if all these improv lines are happening on top of vocals, if they're happening during like a real specific motif of the song that the piano is playing, it's going to sound like chaos. It's just going to be way busier than it needs to be. And therefore, the song is not going to be as impactful as it could be. So, I think you can embrace those gifts that those players have and encourage them. But I think you're going to need to be really specific, telling them where the best place to implement that would be. So if it's a modern worship song and there's an instrumental break, maybe having them make that section their own, especially if you don't have like an orchestra who's complementing, whatever or who would need to complement what they're doing, finding those spots. But also, if they're great at improv, even if they can't read music, but if there's a lead line you need them to play, make sure they know that or help them make that line their own. Maybe it doesn't have to sound like the original demo. Maybe it can be, their own spin on it. That's totally fine. So I just think you'll want to be real intentional and real specific. For the pianist, there may be more notes on their piano part than they need. So again, with a less is more kind of mentality, if they're reading the anthem, reading a piano part, the left hand probably is way more busy than it needs to be. That piano part is written um, with the assumption that no band is playing along. So that means that the left hand, the bass clef of the anthem, probably has what the bass guitar is doing on the demo. So if you have the pianist doing that and the bass guitar, it's just too much. It's too busy and it probably won't be together. So it's just going to sound like chaos. So for your pianist who's just looking at notes on the page, they're probably going to need to not play everything written on the left hand. Maybe say, hey, play just when the chords change. Let your hand move then, especially on an up-tempo song. Obviously, if it's a ballad and their playing style is expected to be more, arpeggiated, then the piano part may work fine. But it's worth your time, like really perusing that piano part and thinking, man, this sounds like what the guitar is doing, and to tell your pianist, hey, let's not tackle this here. Play really basic, just play the chords. And you'll be amazed at how it frees up the sound of your band when you're just hearing one instrument do that as opposed to a few instruments playing the same thing. Everybody really can have their own role, and all it does is make the song sound bigger, makes it feel bigger, and it's a great way for your team to work well together. Yeah, and then other improvers, like we have a guy who plays B3 organ here at First Woodstock, and that's become like a huge instrument for our team because he just knows how to fill in the gaps. You'll hardly ever see a B3 organ part written out. So finding somebody who knows how to play it, or if you have an organ and don't have anybody to play it, send them, give them recordings to listen to of great gospel artists, and let them listen to what tasteful B3 playing is like. And that's a good way to get started for sure. Great question, though. James has a question. Do you ever coach your audio engineers on how to balance the layers or mix for band and guitar solos, etc.? Mainly volunteers in mind. We have awesome non-musician volunteer sound people, but I wondered if there's a way to coach them. Absolutely. So we use volunteers too, very often to run sound for us. Every Thursday, our instrumental director, our orchestra director, he sends notes song by song to our audio team, and those go to, we have an audio staff, but we also often have audio volunteers running, um, running sound. So Trey Tanner, our instrumental director, he sends notes song by song, and in those notes it has, um, hey, there's this song opens with, just acoustic guitar, or this song opens with a lead electric line. There's a huge guitar solo after chorus two. Be sure to be on the lookout for that. So he's really giving our team, our audio guys, a roadmap um, to know how to win and what needs to win in the mix. It might even be, hey, we've got a worship leader on this song who, hasn't led much before. They're going to be really timid. Their volume may be a lot softer than my volume might be. So definitely we'll want to make sure and compensate. If usually two or three worship leaders will lead on a worship set, so it's not just me leading. And we always specify that to our sound guys. Hey, I'm not leading on this song, but I'm going to keep singing. I'm just going to sing, the tenor part on this next song. So I shouldn't be as loud as I was on the song before. Little things like that. It's amazing how that helps your audio guys. So obviously they have to read those, they have to look at them. Ideally, you walk through those songs with them one on one. And we'll talk about sound checks tomorrow. and how important those are. And we'll talk about that relationship with your sound tech or with your media director. So we'll hit several of those topics and talk about the things that you want to hit together. But yeah, send them information, put the ball in their court to really create a great mix for you. So yeah, we're that detailed to say, where even the vocal balance should be. So instrumentally and vocally, we try to give them all those details. That's a great question, though. Any other questions? Well, we've got a great group here. Thank you guys so much for checking in today, and I hope some of this has been helpful. I'm going to drop my email address on here, cliff.duren@fbcw.net. Feel free to send me an email, or if you can't make the other worship band breakout sessions, but you'd like to have the notes from those, don't hesitate to let me know, and I will gladly send those your way. But I appreciate you guys chiming in. Great questions today. I'm going to add some thoughts to my own notes based on the questions you've asked. So super helpful to me as well. God bless you guys for being here, and we'll see you hopefully at a breakout tomorrow. Thanks a bunch.